So what I've got here is actually a process template. And I know today we're not specifically talking about process templates, but process templates are another feature within Platform Hub for platform engineers to help with how you want your consumers and your application teams to run deployments in your organization. So I've built one here that is for those pre-flight deployment steps. And in my organization, I might have defined that we need to run a scan against an SBOM or a software bill of materials as it's come through from the build server to make sure at deployment time that we aren't open to any vulnerabilities that might have come between the build and the release time. And I might also be doing things like configuration validation to make sure all of the config for my app is there and present as things like variables for the application to run. And I might also send a Slack message out. So in this fictitious scenario, these are my pre-flight deployment checks. And I want to make sure that everyone can consume these really easily. But then I want to make sure that it is actually being used and it's running on every deployment as well. So I've got a project here that is ready to go for process template verification. And in here, if we have a look at the process itself, we can see that I've pulled that into my deployment process. So I've pulled in that process template. We're running those pre-flight checks, and then I'm going and doing my deployment with whatever customized steps that I might have as that specific application team. So at the moment, I'm adhering to that. Now, if I jump back into Platform Hub and take a look at policies, what I've also gone and written as a platform team is to make sure that that process template is executed. So this policy is making sure that that does actually run. So the action that I've got here is to block the violation. That's a violation action, sorry. And for the scope in this one, I'll just make this full screen. But I'm scoping this to a specific project here on line 6 in a specific space on line 7. This is a good way to scope things down to be very specific, maybe when you're going through testing or initial creation of the policy. But you can absolutely, say, remove these two things if you wanted to evaluate, or set the default evaluate to true if you wanted to evaluate it across all of your deployment processes and runbooks in your organization. Now, the second part that I've got here is the condition itself. And if we have a look at this, this is a little more complex, but again, we've got these in the examples in our documentation as well. And this policy is ensuring that all of the enabled steps that come from a specific process template, so I'm calling that out down here by the slug or ID of the process template itself, and I'm saying that it needs to be a type of process template. We are making sure that all of those are enabled, and also that they're not being skipped at deployment time by the person who's running the deployment itself. So that's what the policy looks like. So if I come back over as the persona of the application team who's running this, let's just create a new release for this one. I think that should be fine. And I'm going to deploy that out to the development environment. You'll notice I didn't scope this down to any specific environment. So this should evaluate across all of my environments. And we can see there the first one that gets run is the policy check. And I can see that I'm compliant with the process template is being executed policy. If I wanted to, I can go and change the log level here to verbose. And this will show me the entire payload that was sent into that policy engine. So I can see all of the properties that were sent through and what those values were and what I'm being evaluated on. But that all looks good. But what I might do now is I'm going to come back to the process itself, and I'm going to try and do something naughty here. And maybe I'm trying to get around something that my platform team has put in place. So I'm going to try and disable this, because I just want to quickly, deploy my Kubernetes manifest and see if that's working. So I'm going to be a bit naughty and just turn all of that off. Now I'm going to create a new release here because I have changed the deployment process, and I'm going to deploy that out to the development environment again. And immediately we can see that it's gone through that policy engine, and now that we are not compliant with the policy. So if I look at the task log, I'll get that violation message that my platform team has put in. So it's saying that the pre-deployment check process template must be used. So that's where it's gone ahead and determined, or it's found that the user has disabled those or tried to skip them, and we've said, no, they must be used. Notice that I didn't say where in the deployment process that it must be used. I just said it must be in there somewhere. So that's one way to try and enforce, or to actually enforce some of the templates that we've got that we've agreed to as an organization. And one other cool thing that you can do, if I go back to Platform Hub quickly and look at the process template. So because this is all backed by Git and it's all version controlled, when I create a process template, I create a version of it as well. So you can see here I've got version 1.0.0 and 1.1.0 as well. Now, I might iterate on this process template over time and make changes and modifications, and I might then want the teams in the organization to be using a specific version exactly, or greater than a specific version. I might have brought in some important changes to the way that we're running that specific process template. So within the policy itself, what I could do, for example, is for every step in the process template, one of the properties that we have that gets passed into the engine with that payload is the version of the template that's coming through. So this is doing a semantic version comparison for against the version that's coming in at runtime of the process template. And over here, I could say what that version is. So I could be very specific and say everyone in my organization must be running 1.1.0, for example. And we've got lots of different examples on what that could be. It could be you need to be running a version higher than this, or this exact version, for example. So that's really cool. And the last thing that I'll show as well, just quickly, is over in the configuration. I can leave that. We've got our audit log here. So we do have advanced filters, and the easiest way to filter the audit logs on these is to have a look at the categories. So if I just search here for compliance, we've got a few categories that are whether the compliance policy evaluated as compliant. So we could see all of those deployments that were compliant. We can see the ones that have a blocked outcome and ones that have a warning outcome. So if I filter that to a blocked outcome, we'll see the one that I ran here just a few minutes ago about the process template needing to be used in the environment. So that's how policies can work together with process templates to help enforce some of those things as platform teams and organizations that we want to make sure are being used across our organization.